Boker Tov. Today's daf is daf Samach Daled in Gittin, as we learned for Shlema for Elazar ben Uma and for Yosef Israel ben Chaim Michal and for Shlema for Tamar Chana Bas Frida. Says the Mishnah at the bottom of Samach Gimel and Beis, the last couple lines here. A woman said to a shliach, "Be makabel the get for me, accept the get for me, right? Acquired for me." That means that he's a shliach to kabbalah. That means that as soon as he receives the get, she's divorced. Okay. Now what happens is where's the get? It's ripped up. It doesn't have the get anymore. It's ripped up. He ripped it up. We'll see the Gemara is talking about at the time of Shmad. They were Shmad, and they didn't want you to keep the rules. You weren't allowed to get married, but getting in kedushin, talis, tefillin, tzitzis, everything, Torah. They didn't want you to keep any mitzvahs, so he had to rip it up of fear of death. They see you writing gittin, they would kill the people. So now we don't have the get. She needs 2 sets of Adam. She wants to come now and say, "I've been divorced, I'm going to get remarried." She needs 2 sets of Adam. 2 who say, yes, we can testify that she assigned this shliach to accept the get for her. The man's holding the ripped up get in his hands. So what? Who is he? We need 2 Adam to testify, yes, that she assigned him to be her shliach l'Kabbalah. And 2 other witnesses who say, yeah, we saw him receive the get, and he ripped it up. In other words, the husband or the husband's shliach gave this shliach l'Kabbalah the get. We testified to that. In other words, as in general we talk about, you need 2 people. 2 people to see the kedushin, 2 people to see the gittin. And we're going to see, we go like Rabbi Lezer, who holds what? That Adam Asir Karti. The main thing is handing over, not even the Adam on the star, on the get. That's just, we do it to be safe. In case the Adam Asir aren't here, we'll check things out. But it's not a good divorce unless 2 people witnessed it. So you have to have 2 people. Number one, you have 2 people who witnessed and said, yes, we saw the husband give the get to this shliach. Who says he's a shliach? Who asked you? Who assigned you? We need 2 witnesses also to say that, yes, we saw her assign the shliach to kabbalah get for him. Now, they don't have to be 4 people over here. You could be the same 2. The same 2 people could have done it. So that's what the Mishnah says. So you need 2 people to say, she said it in front of me. We saw him receive a car and he tore it up. As we said, he tore it up because it was the Shmad. Even if it's the same guys, it could be the same 2 people. This is, or you could have 3 people, 2 people. Let's say Reuben and Shimon saw her give a sign and heard her assign this shliach to be her shliach l'Kabbalah, and then Shimon and Levi. Shimon, who's one of the first one, went with Levi and saw the get take place. The get taking place means the husband gave it to her shliach. So that's what happens over here. So we say that a woman who said, "Be makabel the get for me," and now the shliach has the get, but it's ripped up. If he would have the get in his hand, he's believed to say, "Yeah, I handed it over. I received it from the husband because I could say right now I accepted it, right?" But he doesn't have to get it; it's ripped up. So you need these 2 sets of Adam. Itmar says the Gemara at the top of Samach Dal, the second line. Itmar, because let's say we're talking about a case here where we have a husband and we have a shliach who was assigned by the wife to be her shliach l'Kabbalah. The husband says, "Oh, I never really gave it to you for a divorce. I meant to hold on to it in case I decide to divorce her later on. I only gave it to you for safekeeping, right, as a deposit." Ushlish, the third party, that would be the shliach of your says, "No, you gave it to me. I'm a shliach l'Kabbalah. I'm a shliach l'Kabbalah, and necessarily I was a shliach who received it. And when I received it, she's divorced. So now we have a question: is she divorced or not? The shliach, she assigned the shliach. Okay, you agree he's a shliach, and he has the get. But the husband says, "I never gave it to you to accept the get for. I gave it to you to hold on for it while I'm thinking." So who believe? Minam, who's believe? Rafuna or Balnam, and the husbands believe. Now we're talking about a case where they're both in the same city. The husbands believe. Rav Chistam or Shlishnim, no, you believe the third party. And you see the Rambam Sechan there. The Rambam would probably paskin like that you believe the third party. Rav Hokbar Malneman, the husbands believe. The husbands believe to say I only gave it to the shliach for a deposit because he says if I gave it to for gerushin, I could have given it to her, Nilla. I could have given it to her. I live in the same city. If I would have given it, if I meant to give it for divorce, I would have given it directly to her in the same city. Why would I give it to you? I gave it to you simply because I thought you're going to hold it. You're a trusted third-party neutral observer. I thought I could give it to you to hold on for me. That's Rafuna's opinion, because they're in the same city. It could be if it wouldn't be in the same city, then Rafuna would be motive. But if Chista Omer Shlish Temen, Chista says no. The third parties believed. He believed I trusted you. I gave it to you. I trusted you that we would believe you that you are whatever you say. You say you're the shliach for Kabbalah. Fine, okay. So I gave it to you, shliach Kabbalah. We trusted you. Why'd you give it to this third party? You don't give a get like that. You don't give money. You don't give important things to a third party unless you trust them. So if Chista says we believe the shlish, and therefore she is divorced. She's divorced. He says you gave Kedusha and Kedusha. Masa Rabba says Kasha. We know if a person, if you have two litigants and one's moda, oh, I owe you $1,000. Okay, that's like Me'edim, you give them the money, right? Like but the shlish is more believed than both litigants. You always believe the third party because he doesn't have an interest, right? He doesn't have an interest, it's not his money. So you always believe him. Kate said, the litigants each argue and say different stories. Shlish neman. So you see the third parties believe. So this is a kasha on Rav Huna, who says that the husband's believed to say, I only gave it to this guy for deposit. More shiny moment, this money is different. You could be mochel money. Money, it's not a big deal. You could be mochel. You can give it. Here we're talking about Isser. Is she divorced or is she not? The husband says she's not divorced. The shlish says she is divorced, and she and therefore the question is she divorced or not? That's a question of Isser. There we don't believe necessarily the third party. Third parties believe when it comes to money. We learned over there that the shlishas believe even when it comes to gitin. Sounds like even when it comes to Isser. No, gitin moment. Get is really just means a writ, a document, right? So normally we say get means we mean gite nashim, but it could also be gitin moment. It could also be a document of money. The says also for shtaris. So shtaris is money. So therefore git must be gitei nashim. Says maybe gabe adani tanya. Did we learn the words kain and git and v'chein and shtaris at the same time? If at the same place, if you said the chain git and shtaris, so you say right. Shtaris means money. Git means gitei nashim, but they're said at two different places. One says the chain git and one says the chain shtaris somewhere else. The shtaris is also money, obviously, and gittin is also gitei moment. Okay, so that was a kash on the point. Now we have another kash. Tanana ish shamar mishnah. That's what the Gemara always does. The Gemara brings out a case, and whereas from our Mishnah. A woman says to a man, to a shliach, you be couple get from me. She's two sisters of him. Two who say that I assigned him. Two say yes, we saw her assign the shliach to be her shliach Kabbalah, and two people who say yeah, we saw him receive the get from the husband or the husband's shliach, and he tore it up. Again, it could be the same two, or it could be two guys, and then Reuben and Shimon did the first part, and then Shimon and Levi did the other part. But you need two eidim for each. What do you need this for? According to Rav Chista, now we're like Rav Chista, we pass like Rav Chista. Did you believe the third party? What do you need this for? Just believe the shliach. So the Gemara does he have the get? Why do we always believe him? Because it's he's empowered to do whatever he wants. In the case before we're talking about he's holding the get. There we're talking about who is believed. So you say over there, okay, there he's believed because he has the power to accept it now. He can give it to her if he wants. He's not holding the get in our mission. It was torn up. It's Tenach Umrah. Okay, fine. So I understand as far as Umrah, meaning the first part. La Suya Adam, you need Adam. That saw him accepted from the hand. In other words, the Gemara says Tenach Umrah is going on. This was Tenach Amra Kibul Amli. Okay, so the Gemara says Tenach. I understand. Okay, why you need two Adam to say that she assigned this guy to be a shliach. But Kibul Amli, what do I need Kibul for? Lasuya Adam Sharu Makablam Yarabal. He's in front of us. He's holding the torn pieces, the torn get in front of us. Amrav money Rab Lazadar made a Masir Karti. We don't care about the star. We don't care about the star. So you have a get over here, right? The main thing is without Adam Masir, she's not divorced. If he writes her a get and Adam sign on it, and now she has it, right? She walked away with it from the table. She picked it up. She's not divorced. You need Adam Masira. That's why it's not enough to say what we understand why you need Adam to say that. How do we know she assigned this guy to be the shliach? I need Adam for that. But obviously he has the shtar, even if it's ripped up and he's not empowered to give it to her now. He's not. But obviously he has the get in his hands. The answer is you need Adam Masir. You need Adam. Carl, why are you talking about a case where it's torn? Just say, what's this business about? We saw him give it over and torn. Now, if it wasn't torn, so then we would say he's believed because he's a migu, because he's got it right now in front of him. He could say, I received it for this purpose, or I'm giving it to her now. So there you could say that he would have a migu. But now that it's torn, so he doesn't have the migu. We said, is it in his hands? Why don't we believe the third party, just like we believe always we say we believe the third party. According to Rav Chisda, you believe the third party. Why don't you believe me? And the answer is he doesn't have to get in front of him. Why do you have to be talking about a case like that? Why do you have to talk about? Why does it have to be a case of Karalim? Why should he tear it up? We talk about Shas, you weren't allowed to do any mitzvahs, tefillin, Torah, mezuzahs, tzitzis, all kinds of mitzvahs, including gitin and kedushin. You weren't allowed to observe any Jewish laws, so he had to tear it up for safety. Amaravo Moder Rav Huna, even though Rav Huna said you believe the husband, that he only gave it to the shlish as a third party as a deposit. If the amra ihi with the amrli shlish delegarishin yava in LA mehemda. Strange thing. He says Rav Huna's moda that if she says amra e, if she says that the third party that we're talking about over here, who's holding the ripped up get, says that he gave it to me for gerushin, that he's believed. Now, our Mishnah was talking about a case of torn up. Here, it's not talking about where it's torn up. Simply, it's in front of him. Get Shnas and Biad Shlish. He's holding it. The Mishnah was talking about a case of farm. Here he has the get. But the question is, did he give it to him as a deposit, or did he give it to him as her agent? So Rav Chisda says he's the third party's believed, and he says he gave it to her as her agent, and she's divorced. Rav Huna says no, gave it to him as a deposit. Even Rav Huna's motive that if she says the Shlish, the third party, told me that he gave it to him for the purpose of a get, he's also she's believed, and it is a get. Gemara says, why? Rav Huna holds that the third party himself is not believed to say he gave it to me for a get. But if the husband says it was a deposit, it's not a get. So the third party is not believed, and she's believed to say he told me. If the person himself, the shlish himself, is not believed to say it was given to me for a get, she's believed to say, well, he told me, the shlish told me that when he received it for a get. Why would she be believed? She's only empowered from him, and he's not empowered at all. According to Rav Huna, Eli Amra, when was Rav Huna Moda that you believe the shlish? Eli Amra, Kamoi Didi Delegarishin Yavanile Mehemna. If she says, in front of me, I saw my husband give it to my shliach for a purpose. He didn't want to hand it to me directly. He handed it to the shliach in front of me for the purpose of get. Then she's believed. Migudi boy Amra Ledida Yavnile, because she could have said he gave it to me. He gave me the get and I ripped it up. So therefore, right, Migudi boy Amra Ledidi Yavnile Bao, she's believed. In other words, as we see, if a husband says, I didn't divorce my wife, and she says, I did receive the get. I received the get properly in front of you, you believe her. She wouldn't have the chutzpah to lie. If a woman comes and says, now today, obviously you want proof, etc., etc. Nobody wants to get remarried to a woman unless she has proof that she's been divorced, right? If it's known that she was married. But technically she's believed on her own. If she says she was divorced, she's believed. So therefore, if she says that I saw my husband give my shliach the get, I saw him give it to him for the purpose of gerushin, she's believed because she could have said he gave it to me for a gift. That's all one case. That was the case, the first case we're talking about, where a husband gave it to the wife's shliach Kabbalah, and there's a fight whether the husband says I gave it to him only for a deposit, not for a divorce, and she says, and the shliach says, well, gerushin. Who do you believe? And Rav Chisda says, we go like Rav Chisda, you believe the third party. What about this case? Baal Meligerishin, B'Shlishim Meligerishin. What happens with now? It's not a shliach like a Baal. This is a different case. The Baal says the Baal assigned the shliach laholacha to give it to her. That means when she divorced, only when she receives it. The husband says, I gave it to the shliach to divorce her. B'Shlishim Meligerishin, and he said the shliach also says I gave it to her for divorce. The Yomeres, and she says Nasli Baba, I received the get, but it was lost. It was lost. So what's the case there? What happens? Talking about was she divorced or not? Was she divorced? The husband says, I gave it to the shliach to divorce her. The shliach says, yeah, he gave it to me to divorce her, and I gave it to her. And she says, I received it, but I lost it. So the Gemara, well, what's the halacha? Isn't she divorced? Isn't she always believed? The Echad says, no, you need two people. She's not the beast. But why don't you believe the third party? Why don't you believe the third party? We just said before, if Chizah says you always believe the third party, says he doesn't have it. If he would have the get, or if he would have the get, so Mika that he could give it to her now, he's believed, but he doesn't have the get now. Why do you believe him now? He's not empowered to believe him. Why don't you believe the husband who says I gave it to him? Why don't you believe the husband who says I gave it to the shliach to divorce her? The husband says I divorced my wife. Neman, he's believed. The answer is Mikama Garashi. Why is he believed? Because he's empowered to give her now. If a man says I divorced my wife, he's believed because he can give it to her now. He can give her a get right now. But here he's not saying I divorced my wife. He's saying I gave it to the shliach to divorce my wife. If he would say I divorced my wife, believe me when I say divorce my wife, I give it to her, then you believe him. Here he says I gave it to the shliach to divorce her. And the shliach says he divorced her, but we don't have him. She says I received the get, but I lost it. So how do we know? Maybe the whole thing is made up. So Rabbi Yochanan said no, that it's Daf Yomi. You need two people. Why isn't he believed? The husband's believed that he gave the get to the shliach. It's not that he's not believed there, but he doesn't know if the shliach gave it to her. If he would say I divorced, believe me, I divorced my wife. Believe me, I divorced my wife because I could give her a get now. Yeah, then he would be believed, but he's not saying that. The Amar Rav Meir Shapiro Baal Shama Gerash Zishin Neman. Did he say Gerash? Did he say I divorced her? He says I gave it to him to divorce her. The shliach lo lachu davar. I just made him a shliach. So the Gemara says v'leima chazaka shliach. We have a klal. There's a chazaka that if you send a shliach to do something, you can assume that it's done. In most cases, he does that. It's a chazaka, right? The Amar of Yitzchak. Listen to this. A man is desperate. Just got out of jail. He wants to get married. Tells the shliach, go to New York, marry. I want a New Yorker only. Marry, get married. Take any girl who's Jewish. I'll take anybody. All right, I'll take anybody. Marry somebody for me. Okay. Umeis shlucho. Now the shliach died. A couple of weeks go by, and he tries to call the shliach. Who'd you marry for me? I gave you the money. I gave you the ring, and I said, you're my agent. Say Rabbi Kadesh for me. And he could do that. Shliach works. Now the shliach died. He doesn't know who he married. What do you do? Also, this man cannot marry anybody now. Why? Because whoever he marries, maybe she's a relative of his wife. Maybe you meet a girl now, and you say you're going to marry her. Maybe the shliach married you off to her sister or to her mother or daughter or a relative that can't marry anybody. Unless, of course, this woman, you find a woman who's a Yoris, who doesn't have any relatives or something like that. But basically, you can't marry any Jewish woman. So you see a chazak, shliach. So here too, why don't you say, listen, the husband, we believe the husband, he may be shliach, a shliach lo lacha, right? The shliach says, I did it. We believe him on that. And why don't you say a chazak, because she did a shlichus, and therefore she's considered divorced. That's the chumrah. You can't get married to anybody now because maybe your shliach married you off to her relative. Here we want to make it cool and say she's divorced. We don't know. We know she's married. We have a chazak, she's married. She's probably married. You want to say she's divorced? If he were to say, I divorced her, the husband says that, believe me, I divorced her. We believe him because if he wants, he's empowered. If he wants to give a divorce now. He didn't say I divorced her. He said, I gave the shliach the get. So give her, what do you do in a case like this? So give her a new get now and be done with it. You could do that. But the question is, you don't have a new get here. What do you do? So believe her. What happened over here? They all agree. The husband says, I gave the shliach the get, right? He should be my shliach lo lacha. And the shliach says, yeah, I took it to her and I gave it to her. And she says, I received it, but I lost it. Where's the proof? We don't have any proof. And why don't you say the chazaka, he probably did it. That's the chumrah, but the kula, no. We don't want to say she's automatically divorced. Why don't we believe her? If a woman goes over to her husband and says, you divorced me. She wouldn't have the chutzpah lie. If a woman has that kind, like the same thing with the loan, you remember where you have to swear for a motive of mitzvahs, because you wouldn't have the chutzpah to lie, so you try to get up. That we go into the psychology of a person. A woman wouldn't have the chutzpah to say you divorced me if she wasn't divorced. She would have the chutzpah. Nobody is on her side. Nobody is supporting her contention. But over here, the shliach is also saying you divorced me, right? Here she said that she's divorced. So when shliach is also saying she's divorced, so she would have the chutzpah to lie. Therefore, she's not believed. So in this case, although it's very likely that she's divorced, we can't accept that on its face, and you need another get. Now marasa. Now what's a now marasa? We know a girl's iktan until she's 12. 12, she's bat mitzvah. She's bat mitzvah. She's chayiv mitzvahs, right? But until she's 12 and a half, her father can marry her off. He has wishes to marry her off. And he breaks her nedarim also until she's 12 and a half. If she's engaged, she's an Arab. That's once she's a Bulgarian 12 and a half, her father has no wishes over her. He's not entitled to marry her off. He doesn't break her nedarim. She's totally on her own. But between 12 and 12 and a half, although she's a bat mitzvah, if she's fully married, if she's fully married, we're talking about kedushin, her husband still the father has rishus to marry her off, and the father still has rishus over her until the age of 12 and a half to break her nedarim, unless she's fully married, and also to accept marriage for her, a namarasa, okay, to accept the kedushin for her. But if she's fully married, then he has no rishus over her, or if he dies, obviously he's lost rishus. So this namarasa, it means she's between 12 and 12 and a half, and she's engaged. Who accepts her get for her? The father marries her off. Even though she's bat mitzvah, who is rishus to marry off the father? The father decides who she's married. He accepts the money. Even though she's bat mitzvah, the rules until 12 and a half, the father has rishus over her. So the Tanakhama says, yeah, what about by gitin? By gitin, either her or her father. Yes, for marriage, the father marries her off. But once she's mureses, now marasa, we're not talking about if she's fully married. If she's fully married, then only the father has no rishus over her whatsoever. For marriage, for divorce, for nedarim, anything. But if she's engaged, and now she's engaged, and now she receives a get, because if even engagement, you need a get if they're going to break up the marriage. Now marasa, her or her father, either one. You don't know. You can't have two different hands, two different authorities over her. Only the father, just like the father is the only one who has just to marry her off, only the father is just to accept her get. If you have a young girl who doesn't even understand what divorce is, the father marries her off, he can marry her off from the time she's 1 day old. She's 4 years old and she doesn't understand what a get is. She doesn't understand that what to watch her get, meaning that you give her a get, she comes back home anyway. She doesn't understand. You can't be megarish her at all. Even the father can't accept garish her because it doesn't mean anything. She doesn't understand what it is. What's machlok between Tanakama and Rav Yehuda? Hashem gave an extra hand over here. In other words, when it comes to marriage, only the father marries her off. But once she's engaged, now you want to get divorced, the father gave her an extra hand. She's bat mitzvah, right? She can also accept her get. Now the truth is, even if she's not bat mitzvah, if the father's not in the picture, she can also receive her get as long as she understands what gittin is, as long as she has to leave, right? So here we're talking about a marriage d'oraisa, not even a kedushin d'rabbanan. We're talking about a real marriage. The father married her off. So Rabbanan say, she has an extra hand. Not only can the father take it for her, but she has an extra hand. She can do it herself. If the father's around, only the father can accept kedushin. Now this means from she's a ketana or up until the age of 12 and a half, only the father can accept her gittin if she's mureses, not fully married. If she's mureses, only the father has rishus over, according to Rav Yehuda. According to the Rabbanan, both her or her father could accept the get for her up until the age of 12 and a half. If she understands what a get is, she's divorced. If she doesn't understand what a get is, she doesn't know how to guard her gittin, so to speak, to stay away from her husband. She's out of the house. What is a girl who understands? She can guard her get and something else. What does that mean, Mike? What do you mean guard her get and something else? If she guards something else, thinking that's her get. In other words, she has another document there and she thinks that's her get, then she's old enough to understand. Says the Gemara, she's a fool. She doesn't understand anything. She doesn't know how to guard her get. If she thinks something else is her get, then she's obviously a fool. She's an imbecile. She's not old enough to get divorce or to understand divorce. Means if she can discern between a get and something else, then she's old enough to understand, and then she could be divorced, even though she's a ktan. So now he gives some rules. So we're talking about a katana. Since we're talking about a katana, if she's old enough to understand that she's getting divorced and she stays away, then they can give her a get, even if the kedusha was a kedusha d'oraisa. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav kedusha or nesua. Right? Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Abasi Sror v'zorko. Let's say you give a child a rock and he throws it away because he knows what's a rock and get any rocks. It goes on, but you give him a nut and he keeps it. Zochalatzma, he can acquire stuff for himself. Again, Midrabanan, because Torah child can't do anything. But he can't acquire stuff for other people. He's not old enough to that Rabbanan didn't give him that koach. Let's say you give him something as a loan, a book or whatever, and after an hour he returns it to you because he understands ownership and lending and stuff like that. So that's what Ravasi said. Then he could even acquire stuff for other people. When we said no, David it's the same halacha. So it's like Mar says, my David what do you mean they're both the same halacha? That in both cases he can acquire for somebody else, even if it's just Sror B'Zorko, Egos V'Not, he can also acquire for somebody else. Or in both cases, even if he understands enough to return items that weren't his, he still cannot be zocha for other people. In other words, the rabbis gave, as we said before, because of Tikkun Olam, and that the children should be able to buy food, etc., they can acquire stuff for themselves, but not for other people. Masav Rav Varda, he was from that place called Vardanya. He was in the place he asked the question, what do you mean a child cannot acquire for somebody else? I'll show you that he can. The rabbi said that if a mavi, you have an alleyway, you shouldn't carry from your chatzei or your house into the alleyway on Shabbos without making what we call a shituf mavui. It's like we make an eruv. There's eruv chatzeris and there's a shituf mavui. So for a mavui they call it shituf. It's a draban. How do you do one? You leave down, you put down usually a barrel of wine. But Omer, it's owned by everybody. So there's a common ownership, so it's like one property. And you can give this chavas aidei beno bita gdolim. You could do it via your children. In other words, they're also old enough to own something, right? You can give it to them. You can give al day bita v'kanim, al day avdom sheplas or through your evet ivri or your amma ivriya. You can give it to them. Right, give it to them. They could be misaket for other people. What do you mean shifcha ivri? That means an amma ivriya. How can that be? If she's old enough, if she's brought pubic hair, she's brought simanim. My boy gabe, she already goes out free. A Jewish woman, right? It's not going to ever be 6 years. An amma ivriya is either 6 years or 12 years old. Simanim. What's she doing there? Elalav the law. She's not shashar. She's still a kana. She can be zocha also for other things, and as you can give it to them through your children can give it to them, right? You can give the chavas to your children, and your children can give it to everybody. That means they could be zocha for other people. So you see, even a child could do it. So this is the kasha that Rav Chanina Bardan asked on Rav Chisda, who said that a child cannot be mizak for other people. This is how shiny should be most. It's only drabanan. So drabanan, Allah drabanan, we're talking about something being mizak as an doraisa. Right, and the basis. This is a rabbanan, so therefore the rabbanan said giving mizaka for other people. I'm Rav Chisda, ishtik bardan. So Rav Chisda's up. He had no answer to me. I said zochalas and zochalacherim, and I said that's a rabbanan, ishtik bardan. He didn't have an answer. Marlon, what could he have said? He could have said called the rabbanan king the raisa token. Just like by the raisa, you can't be mizaka for other people. So here also, here also he could have said called the rabbanan king the raisa token. And if Rabbanan you can be zak for other people, apparently by the Raisa you could. The Rav Chisda would maintain called Rabbanan the Raisa but most of this like Iker Torah. For example, like Meiser. There is Meiser Min Torah, right? So therefore they can have made their rules. Meiser Rabbanan, like on fruits and vegetables and things like that. The Rabbanan can make a takana and it could be like a Doraisa. But over here, Sheet of Mabui, there is no Doraisa there at all. Midoraisa, you only also to carry from Shus Rabban to Shus Yachad or Shus Yachad to Shus Rabban or Dalat Amos to Shus Rabban. That's all how much we see it, but there is the other things are all drabanan, and therefore there's no basis here in Torah, and therefore it's a thing about therefore he could. That's what Rav Chisda would have maintained. Mr. Leslie in Torah alone. Master Rav Avi. I'll show you another case where lachora a child could be misaka for somebody else on something that does have a basis in the Torah. Mariman alamayis tashen. you can evade or circumvent Ma'aser Sheni. Now, Ma'aser Sheni, what's the halach whenever you're POTA something? If you're POTA something, you're makdish yourself like Ma'aser Sheni or hektish, you got to add on 25%. Okay, but what you want to do is the guy wants to avoid the 25%. So what does he do? He gives some money to his kid, and he tells his kid, "You be POTA. Okay, I'm not Ma'aser Sheni. You be POTA, so I can avoid the 25%." I read Ma'aser Sheni case that Omar tells his children who are of age, or to his servants who are Jewish, right? Here's the money. You be part of the Ma'aser Sheni for me. And if you did your shom, you be part of it. So I have to add on the 20% below Chumash. So what's high shifra again? What's this shifra over here talking about? This shifra, which means an Amar Ivriya, Jewish maidservant. He does if she's bat mitzvah, she had shtei saras, my boy gabe, she shouldn't be a shifra anymore. She goes out free automatically at when she's bat mitzvah. Elalav, the loss. Remember, a father can sell his daughter off, but only until she's 12. Then she goes out free. Elalav, the loss. It must be speaking about if she's still an Amavriya, she's not of age yet. And yet you see that she could be part of Ma'aser Sheni, and Ma'aser has a basis in the Torah. Ma'aser but Ma'aser Bismana said Rabbanan. The whole Ma'aser is only Rabbanan. There is no derais over here. You're talking about adding on. The whole thing is only Ma'aser is only Rabbanan. So in Rabbanan they said he can be Mizaka. So how can it be without that? If you're talking about Ma'aser Bismana said, which is Rabbanan, there's also Amavriya. There's no Bismana said. There's no Amavriya. But Tanya ain't ever really know Bisman Yovel no. There's no Yovel. There's no Amavriya. We're talking about the time of the Torah, a time when there was Yovel and there was Amavriya. We're talking about though when we're talking about a potted plant that had no hole in it, so there's no Ma'aser or Raisa. It's only Rabbanan, and therefore it's like just like we said by the Shifra before, who could be Mizaka, the Shituf Mavui for other people, because it's all Rabbanan. This is also Rabbanan. Amarabba, Gimamidas B'Katan. There are three different levels when it comes to ages of cotton that we allow. And we say that Midrabanan, these things work. What ages? If you're talking about a child who understands the difference between a rock and a nut, a rock he throws away, a nut he keeps. He can acquire for himself. And like Rav just said, he can't be mizaka for anybody else. He can acquire things for himself so that when they take it home, so kids should be able to buy food, etc. We'll connect them by kind of the same age by economics. She can accept her own kedushin, or let's say her father died. Her father's not in the picture anymore. Her father died, or he married her off once before, and she's divorced, or her husband died, and she's a kana. She's 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. She could be makadesh at that age that she would need me. You see, if she's 3, 4 years old and she doesn't even understand what marriage is, then he doesn't even need me, and it's not even a marriage for Rabbanan. But if she understands what marriage is, but she just doesn't have a father anymore, then that's kedusha. That's like the same age that you say that a cotton can acquire food for himself, that he can acquire for himself, not for others. That's the age in which the equivalent of a girl could be mekadesh that she would need men. Haputos, if they're a little bit older, 7, 8, 9 years old. Mekhamek, if they can buy and sell. Memkarmar, they can buy and sell what they buy and sell. Metalplit, if it's movables, not karka. Ukineg the mekana, from that age, the kana miskareshes be kedusha aviyah. She could be divorced with the kedushin father. Even though her father married her off with kedushin, at least we're talking about kedushin, she can be misgarish on her own, right? As we said in the Mishnah, Nar Marosa, Ivavi Makabanas Gita, her or her father, and if her father married her off and the father's not in the picture anymore, right? Even according to Rav Yehuda, the father still has rishus over her, right? But let's say the father's not in the picture, but she can be miskaresha. She understands what's going on. Father, even though she's a married, the kedushin is a kedushin deraisa, she can be divorced. He healed us tomorrow once she's a year before bat mitzvah, where she understands her nidarim and her darim count. The darim nidar b'keshesh by a boy, if he's 12 years old, his neder is neder, and when he's makdish is makdish. He understands what's going on usually. Okay, counted by a girl choletzes, even though chalitza normally needs a gedola because it says ish. And we compare man to woman. Only a man who's bar mitzvah can give chalitza, and a woman has to be bat mitzvah also. But if she's 11 years old already and she has simanim, she also would get chalitza. She can give her chalitza, and she can perform chalitza. The limkum nechsev, but to sell his father's karka, to sell his father's assets, his nadlan, until he's 20 years old, you don't allow him to. He's considered a cotton. He's considered a cotton until that age. Even though he's bar mitzvah, but he's not. You don't allow him to do that because he doesn't understand commerce and business and things of that sort. Rashi said, "Choletzes and mevias simanim." If she was already had siman and she's 11 years old, she's a kind of ain't siman and chaletzes. The ish cuts of a parsha makshin ishal ish. Therefore, that's the rule there. All right, we'll pick up from here tomorrow. Mitzvah Shem. Chodesh Tov to everybody. Kol Tov.